And we are live. Once again, everyone, welcome to another edition of the Spoiler Room. And it is our Animation Nation special. Yes, this is one of the animated films that you find folks out there voted on last year that you would like us to cover. And truth be told, I kind of leaned into this one and put it on there because of one of the fine folk we have in the spoiler room joining us as a guest along with our regular crew. So I'm very excited about this. Yes, today we are talking about Starchaser, the legend of Orin, not Orion like I called it last week. I don't know why I said Orion. My brain works like that. But 1985's Starchaser, Legend of Orin, an animated feature film that has a reputation, but it's not for what the film's about, but for what it's like. And we'll dive into that. But yeah, so thank you for venturing down the stairs, pulling up a chair and popping or pouring your favorite drink with us as we talk movie spoilers. And hey, Coke. And tonight, yes, we have with us first the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Joe Randazzo is with us. How you doing, Joe?
Everyone, first time watching this, so this will be interesting.
So I see you're back from places far and wide. So glad to have you back.
I went in with a job and one on the way, and I came out with the on the way job delayed and the first job being canceled. So fun.
Yeah. Sorry about that, man, but I think it'll pick up for you again. It'll pick up for you, but we appreciate you being here for sure. Hopefully he can stay with us. Joe is having a little bit of lag like that. He'll be back with us. And then there's the my right-hand man who keeps coming back for more, Mr. Ian Simmons. How you doing, Ian?
I'm doing very well. This is exciting.
And it is also exciting because I managed to rope as I call him, my brother from another mother, my friend that I've known since middle school. So he's got all the dirt on me. It is now that Jim is with us today. How you doing, Jim?
Hi, everybody.
So glad you could join us. Very happy to pull you in on an episode finally, and it's a special one, which we will talk about in a minute here. So, Starchaser, yes, 1985, Legend of Orin from director Stephen Hahn. And Ian, did you want to try to give the synopsis for this? Okay, you don't have to. We can try to make Jim do it.
The synopsis for Starchaser?
Yeah, hand it over to Jim. I'll
let for it, Jim.
Special guest do it.
We'll do this.
Starchaser is what happens when the Lucasfilm legal department falls asleep for a week. So it is the story of some spaceborne heroes who use a mystical, magical force of some kind to defeat a faceless army of robot-like soldiers and a very menacing black cloak wearing evil being, complete with androids, not droids, but androids.
Mandroids. They're mandroids.
Mandroids, right?
Yeah.
Other robots of other kinds. Slaves and crystals and lots of spaceships and lots of borrowed sound effects.
As well as alien design.
Borrowed alien designs, very reminiscent of some Star Wars like stuff, and character archetypes that can be matched one for one with the characters from our favorite space fantasy. So yeah, Starchaser is an animated version of all of the things Star Wars that made Star Wars Star Wars.
That's well put. Well put. Now, Jim, the reason
I was going to say, with a bizarre amount of sleaze.
Yes.
I mean, this is a PG rated movie, but there's swearing in it. There's an assault, and I'm trying to be delicate here because we're on the YouTube, but there's a very special kind of assault that is kind of okay, quote unquote, because it's a robot, but wow.
Yeah.
Get all into that, but man.
Yeah, and I guess if Lucasfilm's legal department decided for copyright reasons to just go, whatever. Yeah, somebody at the ratings board decided for this particular film that, okay, maybe 5 people would see it and whatever. And maybe they didn't bother getting through the whole thing. Maybe they didn't see the parts that might be concerning. But one of the things that stuck out on first viewing and on third or fourth viewing when my parents happened to be in the room was, wait, what did they just do? What just happened? So,
well, that's what's great. That's what I love about this is you said that this was, you watched this quite often, right, Jim, on VHS at your home.
I recorded it just about immediately upon actually watching the original thing. And I remember I was a kid. I was under 10. I arrived home from dinner with the family one night. We walked in, turned on the TV, happened to have one of the premium channels at the time. I don't remember if it was Showtime or HBO, but we caught the tail end of the film. We actually watched the end of the movie. It was the last, I don't know, 5 minutes maybe. But what stood out immediately was, hey, that's a ship flying around, and that sounds an awful lot like the Millennium Falcon. And there's a bunch of characters in this cartoon, and they all seem very familiar just in that couple of minutes that we saw them. Some pretty good music was playing, and the animation in particular stood out. This is what caught my eye. This is what led to a repeat viewing, was the animation for the time seemed very, very consistent, very, very detailed. And the rotoscoping of the ships in particular reminded us all of Tron from the moment we saw it. So we saw literally just that last 5 minutes of the movie and went, what is this? And looked to the guide at the time. We didn't have, any other way to look it up. And found out what it was and said, all right, well, it's going to repeat itself in an hour. So we threw in a tape and recorded it and watched it from beginning to end.
That's one thing about this movie, though, is the animation is fantastic. I love the animation.
It really is.
But it really
Absolutely.
strikes right away. I think you said there is a 1-to-1 of the characters in this film to the characters in Star Wars, and that is accurate. You have everything from Jabba the Hutt, Princess Leia, Han Solo, C-3PO, Ben Kenobi. I mean, they're all there. It's insane.
Yeah.
I texted Mark and Ian. I was like, how did George Lucas not sue these people?
Right. Absolutely.
And then in the middle, you just find, guys, if your lady's giving you a little too much lip, just
Yeah, because her personality's in her rear end, which we'll get to.
And she becomes so docile after you stick your hand in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is just, I know we're jumping ahead, but I'll just say
that's
one
fine.
thing. Because we are a modern audience and we've seen movies that deal with this kind of subject matter but in different ways, I kept expecting like at the end she's gonna snap out of it or gonna get her programming back or something, but no, she's quote unquote in love with this guy from that moment till the very end. I'm like, wow.
Almost to the point
amazing.
that you wonder if this was a spaghetti western or a giallo, because in those movies, as soon as a woman is assaulted, she falls in love with her assaulter for some reason. Is this movie Italian?
I was gonna get let's get Joe and Ian's initial, because this is their first time viewing reaction, and then we will talk about that, because that is a scene that I didn't quite remember happening, and then when it did, I was like, oh yeah. So first,
trauma gets blacked out in the psychology. That's what happened.
So Joe, this was your first time watching.
Yeah, it was my first time watching, and I had to restart it because people kept like calling me and texting me during it, and I'm like, am I just not getting it, or is it just that convoluted? It does seem to be a little convoluted, because because once I realized they're trying to fit Star Wars in an hour and 35. I'm like, okay, now I get why this is convoluted. And also I messaged you guys. I was like, and I basically about my same comment about how did George Lucas not sue these people. And Ian gave a perfect response that I didn't realize until a few minutes later, because it started happening. Oh, it's fine because George went and stole back. It kind of reminds me of how Rob Zombie for House of a Thousand Corpses stole from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And then the Leatherface movie that came out like 10 years ago kind of steals from the Rob Zombie movies. And I'm like,
Mhm.
it's just full circle. They're just all cannibalizing each other at this point. And that's what that kind of reminded me of. To the point that when Orin kills Zygon,
Yes, Zygon, yeah.
I looked at that and I'm like, holy shit, that looks like when Kylo Ren kills Han Solo.
Well, it was also it's Darth Maul. I mean,
It's
he
Darth
cuts
Maul.
him-
He
he
gets
cuts
cut
him
in
right
half, yeah.
and falls
Yeah,
down
and
the
he's
shaft.
cut in half like Darth Maul.
And it's literally like the same shot framing. Like I didn't realize just how much it replicated till he cuts Zygon in half. Yeah, spoilers, folks. It's a spoiler room. He cuts Zygon in half, and the camera's like up from the tunnel, and his two halves kind of fall. And I'm like, holy shit, that's
Yeah.
like
Well,
we're not going to suggest here for the first time probably that George Lucas got his inspiration from Starchaser: The Legend of Orin, right?
well, this
Like
is
I
the,
said,
this is
snake
the
eating its
first
own
time
tail.
I had never heard of this movie until Mark put it on the list.
Same.
So watching it today, I mean, it even goes back earlier than that, because that's the first time I started having these prequel trilogy notions. Was earlier there's a scene where Orin and Dag are trapped in this kind of prison block, and the little R2D2 light droid or light follicle
Starfly, yeah.
Starfly gives Orin the sword back, and Orin sets himself free. And to get Dag free, he ignites his lightsaber and like cuts a hole through the door. I'm like, that's the beginning of the Phantom Menace. Wow.
Yeah, so I mean, we've got Orin, obviously Luke, the Starfly representing Ben Kenobi, Dag Depremi obviously being Han Solo. The droids kind of intertwined, I guess, in that they both complain and are annoyed to begin with, but the ship ends up taking on the personality of C-3PO through most of the film, right? Being the one just whining about absolutely everything. And I can't say, I mean, we don't ever hear what R2's dialogue is, so we can't say that R2 had the same dialogue as the other robot. That would really change up Star Wars. But the archetypes are all there. The match of the characters are all there, and the representation of the Force. As I said, first time viewing, seeing it from the last 5 minutes on. What happens there, right? The mystical Force creates a lightsaber that the hero uses. So immediately you're like, okay, what in the world's going on? And you have to assume that due to the success at that point of the Star Wars trilogy, that since literally every other studio was trying to do their own live action version, trying to make a whole bunch of money off the same kind of thing, get all the effects studios and everything, including using ILM, nobody had time to pay attention to this little animation thing going on in the background, which is good legally. Unfortunate that the animation that we did say earlier was very detailed and had a lot of attention paid to it, didn't really get any recognition. Nobody got to see all of the work put into the rotoscoping and the fine animation that was put in.
Well, this was also intended intended for 3D.
Yes. Yeah.
This was intended. I looked it up earlier let me get the phrasing right, but yeah, the stereoscopic 3D for watching with the 3D glasses. And
Right.
the posters claimed that was the first ever animated feature for this process, even though an Australian film did it 2 years prior. But yeah, it was marketed in the US as a 3D film when it hit the theaters briefly.
Which matches the time, right? Everybody was coming off of the Star Wars trilogy. Everybody duplicate that and find whatever success you can in sci-fi now that the genre could pick up. And at the same time, you had Jaws 3D and all the other stereoscopic 3D pictures being the craze for that brief bit in time when you had the mid 80s 3D craze. So yeah, they were trying to cash in on that.
It's funny. I looked this up to see if it was on home video, and there is a Blu-ray of it. And on Amazon, they've got the little thumbnail, and there's a little circle on the cover. It says 3D. I'm like, this movie is in 3D. And of course, I click on the image, I bring it up, and it says, featuring a 3D lenticular cover. It's an ad for the slipcase. Yeah. I felt robbed.
So we know what Joe kind of felt about it. Ian, with you and your first viewing, how was it?
Well, I mean, the best way I could put it, I mentioned this in our little chat. I mean, it's like the room of 2D animated features. It's so bad, but so earnest and yet so awful. It's weird because I don't get the feeling. It doesn't feel like these people were trying to rip off Star Wars. It just feels like they just didn't have a clue. Like, I don't know, something just drifted in from the ether. Maybe they were working at Lucasfilm at midnight or something while during the day they were shooting the actual movie. It just kind of like made its way into their collective conscious. But it's bad. It's also kind of boring in parts. I mean, once you, I don't. The problem, I'll just call it the sexual assault. I'm sorry, because that's what we're describing here. Of the fembot comes way too early. Shouldn't have happened at all. But you can't build anything off of that, because narratively it stops the film like, wait a second, this is no longer a kid's movie. This is terrible. But also, nothing is as interesting or shocking as that moment. Except
and this is 2 or 3 minutes removed from the fembot having been sold as a slave.
Yes.
To death.
Yes.
And
that was his motivation.
She is, yeah.
We'll get into
but just real quick, the other my jaw dropped towards the very end of the movie when our little starfly thing, which I thought was the R2D2. I know it turns out to be the Ben Kenobi, but mostly it's just like kind of zipping around and being helpful and kind of mischievous. But when Luke Orin is hanging off the edge of the giant cliff thing, and he's like, I need my sword, and then right, I need the handle.
Yeah.
And the thing comes down, it says, there never was a handle. I'm like, wait, what? Then how did you do all this other stuff with the sword early in the movie? Is this thing gaslighting our hero? And of course, later he forms the Star Blade lightsaber out of his own hand energy, but that wasn't anywhere else in the film. There was a sword handle.
That the Starfly refers to several times. You're right.
Yes.
The gaslighting is there because earlier in the film, it's kind of like bouncing up and down on the hilt, right? Pointing out like this is the tool you need. Exactly. This is your way out. At that point you're talking about where it says you don't need the hilt. Okay, that's the first clue. But when Orin doesn't get it, then it's Starflight's like, whatever, and goes and gets the hilt anyway. And it's like, I'll get you out of this again.
Oh, you don't need the hilt. I need the hilt. Okay, I'll get you the hilt.
Right. It was a hilt.
there was a hilt.
It does seem to be a theme of this movie that certain things happen way too early in the narrative because they kill off the best friend character of Orin. I'm trying to remember her name.
Elon.
Oh yeah, how do I forget that?
Yeah, like right away. Yeah.
They kill her off like it had no emotional resonance for me because I'm just like, oh, okay, I don't give a shit. I don't know who she is.
Well, this film just lightning. It blows through so much setup in the first 10 minutes of the film.
Yeah, even the villain reveal is way too early.
Yeah, you set up that he's a guy who wants to rebel and can't. They've got the overlord character. All these people are serving him. He's got a blind water boy who we find out later is his brother, but not initially. We don't know. He seems to just be taking care of him, but he doesn't refer to him as his brother till later on when I was watching it.
Isn't he Elon's brother?
Yeah, he's Elon. No, he.
Where's the I don't remember.
I think he's Orin's brother because
he's Orin's brother because Orin mentions that it's his brother because he wants to. He leaves his brother. He mentions it briefly in some of the wild dialogue they have here, and then he doesn't rebel. We got some whipping going on, and then while just digging, he just randomly finds the sword hilt, and within like a minute. He finds sword hilt. Old man shows up and goes, "Oh yeah, you got to hide that. You're the new Shaka Khan or whatever." And then, then a guard comes and whips the old guy because he puts himself in front of Orin. He goes blind and dies. I mean, like all these characters were introduced within the first 5 minutes, die within the next 5 minutes of the movie.
Well, I gotta say, this is the problem with Elon's death in particular. This goes back to the Star Wars issue. Yeah. When Zygon is choking out Elon, the camera pans down to show the height difference because he's this tall guy and he's holding her with one hand and her feet are dangling off the floor. Now, this is another exact recreation of that scene from episode 4 when Vader's on the Tantive 4 choking out the commander guy. You see the feet dangling. And it's like, okay, that's Star Wars. And then a second later, it's like, wait, she's dead? This isn't like he choked her a bit and then sent her off to her cell. No, he kills her. And it's a shocking moment, except it's ruined by the fact that you're like, this is lining up with Star Wars. What are we doing here?
Yeah. It may have been a product of its time too, because you did have, that period of the darker animation that was starting to come out, Don Bluth Studios and everything like that, and you had Secret of Nim and the Black Cauldron and Watership Down and so on. So we had to admit then, on that first full viewing, after, like I said, having watched the last 5 minutes first, you start out and they established all the lore of being underground and digging up as hell, and these are all slaves dressed like slaves, just trying to scrabble for food. And for the first few minutes, honestly, watching it again from the beginning, it was, is this the right movie? Did we get the right one? Is there a different movie that looks a lot like that? Because what happened to the space? Where's the spaceships? What's going on here? But in that dark animation vibe, it pulled no punches from the beginning. It wanted to establish the lore and the setting, the characters, kill off the old guy right away in the beginning, kill off who's apparently supposed to be the love interest 10 minutes into the movie. And you're right, an exact parallel to the introduction of Darth Vader with the black mask and backlit and everything, and the cloak and the choking out. It's the same angle and the same shot. You're exactly right.
Yeah, they literally framed it like that. And we got a couple comments we're going to pull over real quick for. We've got Vamp Alley here who says Starchaser is better than Star Wars. And, you go. Everybody, you like what you like. No judgment here for sure. And then we have the Trashed Picture Show goes, yo, lads, I remember this Star Wars cartoon knockoff with the sexy C-3PO who has her mouth taped shut and switched on her ass, flipped to horny. It was too dark and swearing also. Yes, that's exactly what we were addressing before. And we'll talk about it now because never mind, we talked about the ripping off of the scene sets, like we just mentioned Alon getting choked out later on. Just you almost have dialogue of, oh, Mos Eisley, you'll never find a bigger
more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
And then in this one, when they come out of their hyper light speed, they come across this town and you nearly have the Han Solo character saying the exact same lines and different wording, but the same lines. And it was like, wow, okay. But the design of the G4, the design of the G2 female robot, if you saw early concept drawings of the 3PO, you would get where the design of this robot came from, because I have a poster that had one of the original concepts of C-3PO where it didn't look like C-3PO. The eyes were a little bit narrow. You kind of had, and R2-D2 looked a little bit differently. And it looks similar. And I'm like, wow, that's very similar. Oh, Joe, just let you know, I think we're getting a little echo from you if you want to.
I'll mute one.
Yeah.
I think they missed a chance with this droid. They could have called her GSPOT. That would have been great.
But I forgot about that because, again, there's the Tron ripoff. Jim, you mentioned she's in a setting similar to the way we see what's her name in Tron, the love interest of Tron, where she's, doing the programming. She's in front of a console. You have other female droids doing data collection or organization. And it's almost the similar shot. And she comes out and, she has the attitude and he kidnaps her. But just a couple shots in there reminded me of when we see her in Tron. It's like, whoa, okay, this feels similar. But yeah.
So, I think that the Tron similarities were more in the rotoscoping and the effects in the animation. In that there are so many so much of the design is very, very polygonal and lent very easily then to the tracing in the animation, so that what you got and what stood out right away in that first viewing was very, very detailed, very consistent, rotoscoped polygonal ships and other objects in the animation that you really didn't see in a lot of animation of the time. A lot of things were very, very hand drawn. This was before you had any computer aided animation starting in Disney and so on. You had a lot of what you could tell was polygonal computer generated ships flying around at a high frame rate and rotoscoped and animated very, very well, which was brand new when I first saw it. I had not seen that occur in any other animated film. And I don't know that I've seen it since, apart from pure CG animated and overlaid cells.
I mean, that's a great point, because there were several times during this movie that I was disappointed because it's such a Star Wars knockoff that I thought, why couldn't this have been applied to a different story? Because the ships flying around, the space battles and everything, it is remarkable because this is all animation. These aren't like models. I mean, the ILM folks did their own wizardry, but it's hard to remember that this isn't CG animation because it's so smooth. There are times when I was like, oh, that's a really weirdly composited 3D model, and I'm like, that's not a 3D model.
And that's a perfect point. That's something that would be completely lost on a modern audience, right? Absolutely nobody would get that as a product of Starchaser's time. Back then, when this was done, Tron was doing something people hadn't seen before, and this, like I say, in terms of animation, this was something that hadn't been done before, as far as I'm aware, and that I certainly hadn't seen before, and we wouldn't see for another 5 to 10 years.
And there is one moment, because I as much as I didn't like the movie because it was very derivative, I did love the animation, and particularly the character animation, which still had some of that herky-jerkiness in some of the films we've talked about this year. But there's one scene towards the very end of the film where Orin is looking at the Princess Leia character. I can't remember her name, but he keeps having flashbacks where he sees her, but he imagines that he's looking at Elon, his dead girlfriend. And in the last one of the film, he has to kind of like shake the illusion out of his head, as we've seen. And when they cut back to the Orin character doing that, it's incredible. It looks like, I mean, it's 2D animation, but it has all of the facial features and the subtlety of movement of watching a physical actor do that move, but just a very sparse series of lines.
Aviana was her name, the not Leia character, which if you saw how Leia looked in Return of the Jedi in her camouflage fatigues of how her hair was, that is how Aviana's hair is. And it almost looks like Carrie Fisher, like a young Carrie Fisher. If you look at her, you're just like, did they like go to Jedi and rotoscope some shit off of that? Because it looked very, very familiar to her. But
she's royalty, of course. I mean,
she's a princess. She's a headstrong princess as well. She's battle ready, sort of.
Dude, we have to talk about that auction scene.
Well, yeah, we'll get to it. Yeah, because I want to get to it because Joe was talking about the robot, and we've all mentioned it, and it's brought up in the chat. We'll talk about it. So you think that Diggs, our not Han Solo character, manages to kidnap this G2 robot because he uses her as a shield, because they end up getting caught by Zygon's guys and they're escaping. So you think he's using her as a shield because, and they might not shoot her or whatnot. And you also think, oh, he's going to steal her because they could use her to get into the facility to steal more of the crystals because he's a crystal smuggler. You're like, okay, that makes sense. Before you see anything happen, you just see him kidnap a droid that's connected to the system. And you're like, okay, sci-fi standard. He's going to kidnap her, use her to break into the system. No. He steals a female robot, takes her on board. She's got attitude, like she's fighting, he pushes her down. He's trying to reprogram her, and his robot ship goes, no, you're looking for the attitude adjustment circuit. It's in her pus. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, it's in her posterior, and at that moment, you see the smirk on his face. Like, this is the moment he's been waiting for. I get to anally probe this fembot and adjust her attitude.
To which the ship itself that's telling him about the schematics here gets embarrassed. The ship is embarrassed, flushes red, and warns that the circuit is in her posterior, and the robot warns him, don't you dare.
He puts a piece of tape over her mouth.
Yeah.
Pushes her down. Like,
he repositions her. He tapes her mouth, and then he repositions her so her butt's on his lap.
Yeah, over his lap, like he's gonna spank her.
This is like Don Bluth, The Accused. I don't know what I was watching here.
And then he flips up the panel, and then he takes out a little tool, and he's adjusting various parts. And you see her struggle. Then she stops struggling, and he removes the tape, and she goes from, oh, you're, how dare you kidnap me or whatnot, to, oh, hi, in a very sexy
orgasm face. Yeah, and she's like, oh,
like in this
did
old
anybody ever
face.
tell you how cute you are? Like,
So at this point in the movie, you're like, oh, that's extreme. I don't really care for it, but okay, I see he wanted this so that she wouldn't rebel against him. So, she would be on his side. No. He does the attitude adjustment, takes her to the planet that's not Mos Eisley.
Yeah.
To sell as a slave.
He gets 15% of whatever they make off of her. Now, I read that in a completely different way. It turns out I think he was just selling her for, like 3PO and R2 were in the A New Hope, but that initial transaction with the auctioneer or whatever, I got the feeling he was like trying to pimp her out, and he would get 15% of the usage.
Right.
Gross.
And she is very sexified by the end, like to the point where like they're using her, like when Bugs Bunny dresses in drag, they're using her. Like,
Hope you're getting a little quiet, Joe. We're losing you for a minute.
oh, sorry.
There you go.
I had my hand over the microphone.
Oh.
All right. So no, I mean, what I was saying was, she becomes completely sexified by the end, to the point where like they kind of use her like when Bugs Bunny dresses in drag to like seduce Elmer Fudd or Yosemite Sam, because they send her out there to
Seduce a couple of guards.
Yeah, to basically seduce the guards so that they can attack them from behind.
Oh, dude, the first time we see her on screen, I think it's when she's doing all that lab stuff. She's introduced. You see her apple bottom droid butt. It takes up like the entire 2/3 of the frame. It's like that's no moon. Yes, it is. And I'm like, what are we doing here? It gets worse from there.
This is a kids movie.
I think it was trying to go.
Kids movie.
What's that?
This is a making kids movie. This is not for children.
I think they were aware that they were in that gray area, right? I don't think it's not meant to be an adult film, but I think they were trying to push PG-13 before PG-13 was really a thing,
right?
Because I mean, it certainly there are dark parts of episode 4, but as we said, the movie opens with killing an old man, with slavery, with torture, with the loss of the female lead or the love interest right in the first 15 minutes, and before long, Orin reaches hell, which really is just the planet's surface, just something other than the cave, and is introduced to the mandroids right away, which I thought was another pretty decent demonstration of the animation. Right, they did a good job with getting across that these mandroids are collections of body parts, are fighting over body parts, are really just the worst of the worst, and then shot down by Dag as we introduce his character. He's the character who rescues Orin, who immediately calls Kid, just like Han Solo, brings him along on his ship that he's doing trading in. He's a smuggler, and he's trading and smuggling, takes him
Just
to
like Han
like you
Solo.
said, the desert
Yeah.
planet, exactly like Han Solo, right? So dismisses his speaking of the Force and the hilt and the mystical powers and having to rescue his people. But that's the thing, though. That gets into the broader universe. Is we introduce this universe that's all spaceships, high technology, and based an awful lot on androids. Nobody knows anything about this slavery that's going on underneath the surface of this planet, and nobody believes Orin when they talk about it. And then they go on roundabout quests, really, where Orange is trying to figure out what the rest of the universe actually is about, while trying to convince everybody that slavery is actually going on. And of course, the slavery that's going on that nobody's heard about on his tiny little homeworld is tied to the Darth Vader character, the one that's trying to take over the entire universe and going against the princess. So all of the the beats are there. But it's dressed in a PG-13. We're a cartoon, therefore we're kid friendly costume, but still tries to entice people with the darker subjects, obviously the more adult subjects, and even catching people. When you've got a cartoon and here are a couple of characters, the Han Solo character's biggest quirk is he says "damn" an awful lot. Whoa, here's a cartoon swearing. Holy crap, that'll get the kids watching, and that it creates some comedic beats for him, sure, and that this is his reaction to just about everything is damn, but speaks to the strength of the writing, and borrow everything you can from Star Wars, and the big catchphrase for our smuggler hero is he swears.
Well,
Well,
let's go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, like, Jim, thank you for reminding me. There are a couple of ideas here in this movie that are not related to Star Wars that if they had just built on that and done something original, you can still have your space opera, but you don't have to follow George Lucas's version of the hero's journey. What I thought was fascinating was when Orin gets to that surface and he fights the mandroids and he encounters Dag, like he and his people, the slave people, had been down in those mines for thousands of years, being propagandized by these giant robot overlords and the mask wearing demon creature and the big hellmouth thing, that there was nothing for them on the surface. When he gets to the surface, he finds out that everyone believes that all the mining that has been going on for thousands of years by this enslaved race was being done by machines.
Right.
So it's like propaganda on top of propaganda. You could really do something with that. That's like crazy galactic conspiracy, but then it all just becomes hey, here's a Death Star type setting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's where you get also the darker side, because even the reveal of the sword having the blade, getting the invisible blade sort of approach with the hilt. I loved how that's revealed, because here our hero is taken over by these manned droids who are pretty creepy and scary, and he starts fighting over over Orin on who's going to get what body part, and they find the hilt. They fight over it. The hilt gets jammed up in a like weed or a rock, and the guy walks over to it. He accidentally trips. He falls and he gets stabbed. And you're not quite sure what. You can see invisible. You just see the blood that's on the invisible day. It's a very, a very well drawn scene, but it's so cool the way they reveal that it's got an invisible blade and their reaction to it afterwards. I mean, they got those elements in here where they could have did their own thing, but they end up falling back on the Star Wars stuff fairly quickly. I mean, we get eyes and parts hacked off on a creature. Like we've mentioned, people die in that, and that's like the first third of this film is you get on-screen deaths. I mean, the other man droid gets cut in half as well, because
another interesting bit of animation between one of them getting cut in half and one of them getting blasted in half.
Yeah, those creatures, that creature design was great, and I kept thinking some company needs to find out whoever owns the license to this, because I could see them making like limited edition, like little statues or something like that, just of those characters, because they're so neat and weird and gooey.
Yeah, if anything, that is the strongest part of this movie. Is just the design is great, the animation is fantastic. It's like Ian said, the only I even derivative as it is, it takes wild enough swings where it made me enjoy the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I think I enjoyed it more for the audacity of some of the things than anything like that's actually in the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now that I've seen it, I think I I could watch this again. I mean, it's terrible, but the more I'm talking about it with you guys, it's terrible in ways that reveal its potential, and that's what makes it kind of sad. I don't think there's anything on this Blu-ray except for the 3D lenticular cover. I'm waiting, maybe in a couple of years when this thing turns, 40, they'll get like a 4K, like Arrow will put it out with like commentaries behind the scenes and what happened, and George Lucas and his senile dotage talking about how much he loves this movie. I would buy that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, this is the kind of movie where
I think you touched on.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think you touched on the potential that was there in the lore, right? They had the opportunity there, flipping the script on droids, on robots taking over the universe as an empire, and humans themselves just being made for slaves. And that's the version of the evil empire that they established pretty well in the movie. And the reveal of Zygon as being a robot, again, some great animation done in that.
When his face gets torn open and you see the humanoid jaw and the mechanical jaw working inside, very Terminator. But this is probably being worked on before that because it takes so long to do these things. It is really cool to see it. I was kind of disappointed that his face gets restored later in the film.
Right. But then, as you say, the big the fleet attack being taken out by the one single bomb, blowing up everything. They had the plot. They laid out the lore in the universe, and the potential story was there, and then they lost it. And something that hadn't occurred to me until you guys mentioned it actually at the very beginning was, here is the complete droid army that's all lined up to rule the universe for this faction, and the humans can be reduced to slaves, or they can lord over the rest of the worlds and do all the trading that they want. And I don't know. This is almost 20 years before the prequels, and maybe the Phantom Menace saw a lot of those robots and thought,
Yeah,
you never know.
Definitely saw this, and there's no way. There's a coincidence, and then there's just outright stealing in return. It's too maybe one scene that is similar to the prequels that would come 15 years later would be a coincidence, but there's too many.
Oh
yeah. There's a lot of similarities to the prequels later on in this film that just, like you said, some of the angles when we mentioned the dispatching of Darth Maul and the dispatching of Zygon, if you look at the way they do that, it's even shot, it's very similar with the two halves of his body falling, and then he falls down a pit, and it's the same camera. It's like, wow. And it's one of those things, the alien design too. When we get to the harem, yes, this has a harem. There's a harem scene. Our guy, he goes after, within a segment, we get him changing her personality from her posterior, selling her as a slave to get percentage, going to a harem that is obviously a harem to do a deal with a guy for crystals. I'm like, that's all like, wow, and then they go to the desert and there's the betrayal, but it just, all of those elements, you're just sitting here going, parts of these are really cool, and then parts of these, why'd you have to borrow? Because it just hit too many similar beats. One of the other things, though, we've mentioned like Tron and especially Star Wars. I know Back to the Future came out the same year as this, but there's a scene, where I'm going with this.
Wait, actually, you're going to talk about a scene. I'm talking about the Dag's puffy vest.
Well, no, that's what I was thinking.
It was including.
What's with the life preservers?
Yeah.
It's including that. Not only does Dag wear a puffy vest like Marty McFly, but there's a crash scene because these ships can take shots all over, but nobody reinforces the cockpit, obviously, because when anything ever runs into the cockpit, it shatters the window and people crash. Well, at one point, Dag's ship crashes. He's still inside, but Orin got tossed into a tree, and it turns out he crosses paths with the princess, who, by the way, was trying to buy the bot earlier. Okay. So she takes him back to her palace bedroom. The scene, the way it's shot, reminded me of Marty McFly waking up and seeing his mom as, a teenager in 1955. I mean, the way it's framed, the way it's shot, the way she's sitting, the reactions. I'm like, this all seems very familiar.
Well, and the resolution of that scene is straight out of the vinyl that you've got behind you, Porky's Revenge, because Orin stands up and he's got the hilt and he swipes it and he like brings down her entire canopy bed on top of them, and I just happen to be on top of you, and they're kind of like rolling around under the sheets. It's so wacky and strange.
The Back to the Future framing is odd, but I would think because of that this is hand-drawn animation, I would think that has to be a coincidence.
Well, yeah,
I don't
I'm
think
sure
there's any way they could have intentionally mimicked Back to the Future.
No, I'm not necessarily, but
unless here's the theme of the evening. Robert Zemeckis had some friends who were working on this wacky little animated film. He swung by one night like, "Hey, what's this scene about?" They're like, "Oh, there's this guy, he wakes up and there's this girl in the bed." He's like, yeah.
So obviously, Back to the Future and the prequels both got all of their brilliant points from Starchaser, the legend of Orin.
There's no reason that Steve Hahn and writer Jeffrey Scott shouldn't be multi-millionaires by this point.
And while we are saying no, it's not a great movie. It's definitely watchable. There are some fun bits in here too, like the female bot. At one point, she's arguing with the ship Arthur. And
Arthur, thank you.
Yeah, his name is Arthur, and her name's is Silica, by the way, because of course it is.
Sure.
So Silica's arguing with him, and at one point, she says a wonderful line though. She calls him an ungrateful son of a bit.
Yep. I wrote that in my notes.
I'm like, okay, that was creative. It was one of those moments too, and. Then we also had it here, the princess who didn't really want to save Orin's people. She just wanted to be with Orin. Because at one point there's a decision she can make with Zygon, and she could help save the people, but she just wants to free Orin. I'm like, wow, you really don't give a damn, huh?
Well, I mean, he's constantly running around shirtless and showing off those awesome minor muscles. That sounded really bad. I can't remember. Did that scene happen before or after he got his own puffy vest?
After, pretty sure.
Yeah, it's after he got it. So, I mean, there's just so many odd moments. There's also this interesting monologue that Zygon does. It's like out of the blue. The randomness of this movie is great because you just get these moments like that come out of nowhere. Zygon really hasn't had any bad guy monologues so far. He's had some one-liners, he had some things, but just as he's about to decide to, okay, we're going to attack the princess's, this may sound familiar, he's going to attack the princess's planet.
World, yeah.
Take over her world, even though they're not quite ready. They don't have all their battleships. He doesn't care because they have the princess here. He's like, we got to do it now. So he lines up all the ships around the planet, and now he decides to monologue. And he goes into this thing about many centuries ago, humans played against a chess program and the chess program beat them. And now the robots are going to take over the universe. I'm just like, well, that's a jump. But he just does this whole dialogue like, oh, yeah, because he mentions that, yeah, humans played chess against a program, and now many years later, the robots will checkmate the humans. Like, just
So is this to say that this whole thing got started because Joshua from War Games turned into like the killer machines from the Terminator? Like, did it become Skynet?
I'm not
Skynet
sure.
begot Zion.
Yeah,
I'm telling. Well, the other weird thing is in that same monologue, he talks about the extinction of the dinosaurs.
yeah.
Did they have dinosaurs in whatever century on whatever planet he came from? Because that was, from what I understand, a strictly Earthbound phenomenon. How the hell would he know about dinosaurs?
Well, is that what he's implying with the chess reference? Is that this is our galaxy, however many centuries later? This is all happening in our universe.
My question is, how many? This seems like it's got to be like millions of years.
It's
in the future.
It's set. What, like 3,000 years from when the film came out. So like it's I've got it here. Excuse me, 1,000 years. It was set during 2985, 1,000 years into the future. Yeah.
There you go.
The thing is, if you think about it though, okay, so he uses the chess reference, he references the dinosaurs, but our guy and his people who have been for 1,000 years been mining these crystals. So is that implying that Zygon and the robot army originated from Earth and they expanded out into the universe? Because Trina's obviously an alien planet. I mean, he's got a big, huge slug, and you have humanoid. So did the robots take over Earth and then they just spread out into the universe? Because that's the only way he would know about dinosaurs. That's the way you know about chess. That's the way,
I don't know. I got the feeling that they just wrote this great speech, possibly for another movie that has nothing to do with space adventures, and just put it in here. Like, oh, wait a second, that doesn't. Who cares? We're already in the animation stage.
we got another comment here from Chris Sheldon 7430. Had Starchaser on Betamax back in the 80s and loved it so much, wore the tape out. Definitely need to give it a rewatch. Now, where'd I place that DVD? Good luck finding the DVD. If you have it, that's awesome, my friend.
And you can, if you can't find it, you can upgrade to the Blu-ray. It's $15 on Amazon right now. This is not a plug.
No. What is kind of disappointing is we don't get enough space like actual battles, because those, as we mentioned, the animation is good, but those are actually done fairly well, like especially with the Arthur ship, the way it maneuvers. Like it does this main maneuver that's not just a gimmick. It does it a couple of times to where it's got engines on the side and they're being chased. It does a 180 flip backwards and then it flips again. I loved that. I love the design, and I thought the action sequences with the ships, what brief ones we get, were actually handled really well. Actually, they were done better than the film we watched last week, which was Titan AE. This actually had some better sequences that were better animated. And it was, 15 years prior to Titan AE. So it's crazy. But I wanted more spaceship battles. I like the ship battles. I wanted more of those.
Yeah, Arthur's design with the rotating engines on either side and the ramp right underneath the nose probably inspired Joss Whedon too in the design of Serenity. So
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, Firefly obviously stole from Starchaser, The Legend of Orin.
I just love how we've come full circle in this discussion of almost an hour to where it's like Starchaser ripped off all these things, and we're like, yeah, but all these filmmakers may have ripped off a Starchaser.
That's my theory about movies that fail, is they eventually just become, salvage dumps for bigger movies. So like, no one saw this, no one's gonna care. But to your point, I mean, there are scenes, particularly towards the one battle that's.
Oh, Joe,
on
we
their
got a little
version-
sound from you. Sorry, hold on, Ian.
Okay.
Go ahead.
During this movie's version of the Battle of Yavin 4, there's a bit where the Serenity ship is doing some maneuvering, and the silhouette is the Serenity. I swear.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I gotta go watch Firefly again. But it's cool, and it does make you wonder, like, if you could talk to Joss Whedon, if you'd want to, ask him how much did he see Starchaser? Did he think about it? Was this some kind of a weird homage to it? Because he was very much a fan of geek culture and geek kind of ephemera, so I wouldn't put it past him to say, hey, for those of you who, like me, loved Starchaser as a kid, this is for you.
I mean, you mentioned, sometimes these bad movies end up becoming salvage dumps for great filmmakers. Quentin Tarantino made a career out of that.
Yeah.
You look at almost every movie he has made is ripped off a bunch of, lesser movies that were made 40, 50 years ago. So
Yeah,
it's very likely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when Kill Bill came out, when Kill Bill came out, everybody suddenly discovered all of these kung fu films, all of these Asian action films.
But I mean, in that case, though, Lady Snowblood is a great movie, so I would never, say that. What was that? Why do I have a little?
Because you put your thumb up. It's
it's just gonna do that. Oh, because it's on my phone now. So okay, well, God, what was the other? They call her One Eye. That is one that is definitely in Kill Bill. We're not here to talk about that movie, but yeah, it's a trope that great filmmakers will go back and be like, hey, this movie wasn't very good, but it had this great idea or this great shot. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that Joss Whedon and a lot of these guys 20, 30, 40 years later remembered this movie and just went, hey, I really like that.
Now, on another edition of Who Did It First and Who Did It Better, Zygon, particularly the opening and the closing of this film, take place in those mines. And there's the one mine, you see this giant devil mouth, and there's fire inside of it. And then when Zygon appears, he's got these giant kind of ram horns looking very much like Molaram from Temple of Doom. There's a whole bunch of that in here. Now, the one question I have, besides, do we think that the animators were on the set with George Lucas and Steven Spielberg, or vice versa? But my question is, the scene where they send all of the crystals that they've mined into this giant tray into the fiery mouth, and immediately coming out of the fiery mouth is another tray full of bundles of bread, and everyone swarms to it, starts grabbing the stuff out of there. How did they not burn themselves to death? Because it's a giant metal bin coming out of a giant flaming metal mouth. And
are the flames really flames, though, or are they illusions of flames?
oh my, Jim, you are breaking me open like the Stargate in 2001. I hadn't even thought about that. But here's something that's definitely real and definitely inconsistent. The robot overlords, the Cylons. The first time you see one, it's got the face of a Cylon, right? It's just, there's no mistaking it. But they have these laser whips, and one of them lassos around Orin's neck and chokes him to get him to obey. And it just kind of lets him go. I'm like, isn't that a laser whip? Where are the burn marks? Where's his head coming clean off? Oh, I forgot he's the hero. But 5 minutes later, his old man mentor character, he gets slashed by this whip, and the wounds kill him and leave giant hot gashes all over his face and neck.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're inconsistent.
Well, do you set them to stun or to kill? Right? It's different lasers.
Turn down the heat on my whip. Yeah, I don't know.
They adjust the whip heat is what it is.
I'm just glad that Dag never got a hold of one of those things, because I think Silica would have been in big trouble.
Oh, wow. Well, also that ending with Orion, because we get the stand together type of scene where he comes through the fire. He comes through the fire, and everybody's expecting Zygon, and it's Orin. And they're like, huh? And Orin's like, yeah, this is all a lie. We must, and they're like, yeah, all right, Orin, we'll rebel. And then one dude out of this crowd of tens of thousands of slaves goes, no, don't believe him. He's going against the gods. And they're like, yeah, screw Orin. And then they're angry at him again. And then Zygon comes out and they reveal he knocks off the mask of Zygon to reveal that he's just a cyborg. And then they're all like, yeah, we're with Orin again. I mean, but that's all in like the span. Excuse me. That's all like a span of like 3 minutes. It's like the most wishy-washy people ever.
The movie was ahead of its time. What can I say?
I guess so. It's just whoever's speaking the loudest or has the biggest sword. One of the things is Dag earlier in the film, and the only reason I'm bringing this up is because now I realize where I got this quote from. Dag is he's like gonna leave Orin, and he's like, no, I've got a mission, I've got to help, and he's like, no, I'm gonna leave you here. He's like, all right, I'm gonna go now and free my people. And I'm like, I've said that quote so many times when I like leave somewhere every so I go now to free my people, and I've tried to figure out where the hell I get it. And Orin says it here, and I'm like, oh, that's where I got it from.
He's so earnest about it too. It's like, all right, guys, this is the final act. I'm obviously the main character. I go now to free my people.
I thought you were going to mention the Dag quote, which is hold still. I'm trying to get to your butt. That's how many times.
I thought it was going to be the line about Dag, which was, some men are honest, other men are thieves. Only Dag the Dreamy is both.
Yes.
What was it she called him just after he gave her that attitude adjustment? She called him
a meat body.
Meat body. That's what it was. I was trying to think of it.
You're pretty hot for a meat body. It's
that's
like you literally just never mind. and
everything I learned about adjusting my wife's attitude, I learned from Starchaser.
Nothing a good spanking won't fix, I guess. I don't know. It's wrong.
Do you think at some point Dag's going to end up spanking? Well, no, is he going to spank her and like shake loose her programming, and she's going to get her like agency back and then like behead him or something? That'd be awesome.
That would be awesome. That would
stupid cigar comes flopping out of his mouth.
He's not as charismatic as Solo. They try, but he's definitely not as charismatic as Solo. This is a guy that you're just like, yeah, he's here out of necessity. Otherwise, he just is not.
He gets our hero from point A to point B.
Yeah, he serves his purpose. So, and I hope this podcast served its purpose of get you interested in Starchaser, folks. It's definitely an interesting product of its time. Watching it now, much older, you catch a lot more that you may have kind of missed when you were younger or not, but it all has different context nowadays. But at the same time, this is one of those odd watches, and I'll get everybody's final thoughts, and then we've got a little housekeeping to do. But for me, it's like I could watch this again, as rough as it is, as the problematic stuff in here, visually, animation wise, and that you just watch it going, how did this get put to film and get out to theaters? And you just get so morbidly fascinated by this film. You gotta watch it to the end, because you're just like, this is just a wild ride where you're not quite sure what they were thinking, but it's something. And then you see all those familiar elements like we talked about tonight, and then you just wonder which came first, the Starchaser or the egg. So
I can tell you what inspired them. It's the Mr. Crab meme where they ask him what inspired him to open the Krusty Krab. Money. That's it.
yeah. So Joe, what's your final thought? We'll get yours first. What's your final thought with Starchaser?
I'm very much in Ian's camp on this. It is not a good movie, but because of the wild swings, because of just how absolutely audacious it is, I would rewatch this. Would I show it to my nephew or any of the children in my life? No, but would I watch it with my wretched hive of weirdos and perverts? Absolutely.
That's well put. Well put. Jim, what's your final thought with Starchaser?
A product of its time. It was doing what a lot of other companies were doing at that time. Hey, Star Wars is making all the money. Let's try and do our own version. Appreciable, not for the story, not for the characters, not for the writing, but for some decent animation for its time. It stood out and was noticeable for what it did in animation. And obviously trying to catch the 3D bug, but still a good attempt, a good bat of art.
Nice. Ian, what about you? Your final thought?
Well, first of all, I came up with another alternate name for Silica, Me Too D2. I think that would work. We didn't talk about the auction scene, and I'll just bring it up briefly because it was magical.
Go ahead.
They're bidding on Silica. Princess, not Leia, is trying to win this droid, and Orin wants to get her instead. And so she starts bidding, and he starts bidding and gets it up to this crazy amount of money, and he finally wins. And everyone's like, "Oh my god, I can't believe you're going to pay that much for it." And he's like, the guy's like, "Okay, give me your 2,000 galactic credits." And he's like, "What's a galactic credit?"
Yeah, what are star banks or whatever here?
Yeah, it
not
was
Starbucks, Star Banks.
Right. It was like something out of a Disney Channel sitcom, which I'm watching a lot of with my youngest, and I just loved it. It was great. But yeah, I mean, I probably will buy this on Blu-ray just because it's going to go out of print someday, and I have no confidence we'll actually get the 4K this deserves. But it's terrible. I got bored during part of it, but now that I know the full scope of its craziness, I'll give it another shot. And this is perfect for a midnight movie and a revival at some point, for a big anniversary.
Yeah, this is something, watching it by yourself, you're bored, but then talking to you guys about it, we're having so much fun talking about just how crazy it is. I completely forgot the Jabba the Hutt character while he's sitting there with his two concubines.
Yeah.
He mentions to our Han Solo character, I was told you're running around with a young man. Are my ladies no longer good enough?
Yes.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, he said that, and I was like,
he said "young boy," by the way.
Yeah, I think it was young boy. I couldn't remember the.
Yeah.
Like I said, I just watched this for the first time. So.
Yeah, he says, "Young boy, you're running around with a young boy. Are my ladies not good enough for you anymore?" And I'm just like,
PG-rated family adventure.
Can you guys imagine? I'm not going to get off of this point, but if this were to get a revival, can you imagine the AMC popcorn bucket for Starchasers? It's got to be Silica's butt. Right?
But yes, I will buy that popcorn bucket.
We're gonna get sued, but
what?
It's almost as good as the Wolverine and Deadpool mouths.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, those are crazy. Well, thank you all. Hope folks enjoyed this conversation. Thank you all for those who commented tonight, and hope you seek out Starchaser because there's a lot going on in this film. And yeah, the animation is why you watch it. It's for 1985. You look at it. In fact, it's funny. Ian and I we discussed last week Titan AE. The animation in this film that's 15 years older is far better than what was in Titan AE overall. Titan E had a few scenes, but for the most part, where they were trying to do stuff, just didn't work. But here you could see they're trying to do stuff and it worked. And if nothing else, if you're looking for good animation, Starchaser's got it. You could tell they put effort into this artistry, if nothing else, even if they got a batshit crazy story. The animation is just, it's wonderful. So yeah, so there you have it, folks. And now we have our Wheel of Random, because it is an Animation Nation special. We get to spin the Wheel of Random to see what next month's theme is going to be. This month is Drawing Spaces. We're Drawing Space, where we're talking about sci-fi and films, animated films that have ships to them. And yeah, let's see where this lands now for us for April. What will April be? Reconstruction Junction. What is Reconstruction Junction, Mark? Well, your twisted brain. It's covering films that involve Reconstruction period of history. Oh, look at Ian's eyes. I love it. Look at Ian's eyes. So
are you saying that April is going to be the last month of the Spoiler Room podcast ever?
So we are going to tackle well, the Animation Nation film for next month then is going to be Song of the South. We are talking Song of the South because it takes place during the Reconstruction. We are talking that film. Hell yeah. People voted for it. It's one of the ones that got the most votes when I put it on the ballot. Go figure. We're going to talk Song of the South. But we're also going to talk about Summersby, The Last Samurai, and Seraphim Falls. All films that take place. Seraphim Falls is from 2006. They all take place during the Reconstruction period. So those are the films that we will be watching. All of them, I believe, are still available on streaming. If they're not, I have a replacement one because I've come up with an alternative, like a bench warmer film in case, or if I have 5 weeks like we did this week. So
this is great. I have not seen any of those. Those are my first times for yeah. I'm excited.
Very cool. So it'll be interesting conversations looking at an interesting time period and seeing how each one of the films are. I've seen a few of most of these. The only one I don't think I've seen is Seraphim Falls. The other ones I've all seen before. So that's what we're tackling, folks. And yeah, now this is where I give a license to shill to my crew members to tell you where you can find their stuff at. I don't know if Jim, my friend, if you've got anything to shill at all.
Not at the moment.
Not at the moment, but you never know with him. You never know. He's a man of deep mystery. Deep mystery that he still knows me after like 37 years. That's the big deepest mystery, I think. That he isn't, that I'm not in some desert hole somewhere. So I appreciate that quite a bit, sir. But we appreciate you having on the Spoiler Room, Jim. This has been great having you here. And Joe, you got anything to plug?
Well, our the first of the 4 last drive-in specials is going to be on. I think it was April 24th, so we are 6 weeks away from that. It's going to be the Walpurgis Nacht special. The one of the films is one I've seen and is absolutely ridiculous and will be a lot of fun. The other one is more recent. I haven't seen it. I can't say what either of the 2 films are. But do check that out. And also on the plane last week, I listened to Ian and his new Castle Freaks segment or series.
Series, yeah.
Series where he's going to be covering William Castle movies. He started with House on Haunted Hill. Definitely check that out. I had a blast listening to it on the plane. Thank you for doing it. Thank you for releasing it like a day before I had to fly too. That was
I timed it just so. No.
And the flight was only like an hour and 15 minutes, so it was perfect.
Well,
Nice.
thanks, Joe.
And that segues right into Ian. The floor is yours.
I'm Ian Simmons. I run Kicking the Seat, which you can find at kickseat.com and also right here on YouTube. We do weekly interviews and roundtables and movie reviews and all that good stuff. Tomorrow night, Wednesday night, that's the 10th of March at 8 p.m. Central. We're going to be talking about The Bride, the historic new movie from Maggie Gyllenhaal. Join us. And then next week, we'll probably be talking about the Oscars. And also, I'm going to reveal my top 10 films of 2025 because, it's March, so why not? That's what I've got going on. Yeah.
There's some people that still don't release theirs till April. I didn't do mine last year, but I know I fail as a critic. You can have my card if you want. I'll turn it in. But in any case,
wait. Sorry. One thing, Mark. I don't want to step on your outro, but
No,
I
go
gotta
ahead.
say, Jim, it's been awesome having you here, and I hope you come back and join us for some discussion. It's been great.
100%.
Thank you very much. It's been fun.
Thanks for putting it all into perspective for us first-time viewers.
And that's why I was happy that Jim came on here, because I knew of his history with it. And if he wasn't here, or even he's still here, I dedicate this episode to him because he's part of the reason why I finally wanted to cover this film. It's been on my radar for a while. I'm like, oh, I got it. And now I'm like, yeah, so it's great having you here, Jim. And for those of you who might be interested at all, specialmarkproductions.com for all your Movie Man needs. You may want to keep in touch and tune in. If you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, please do so. I just happened to do some festival coverage this past weekend. And we've got 14 interviews coming up and probably that many, if not more, movie reviews coming up. In a couple of weeks, I'll be doing those. This week, we will also be having an interview with the director of a film I recently reviewed called The Cuckoo Clock. I'm interviewing Lisa J on Wednesday, and then that'll drop later this week. And there's some other reviews and stuff, but there's going to be a lot of content coming out of the Midwest Weird Fest / A Night of Horror International Film Festival, which I had the pleasure of being at this past weekend for 3 days. So look for all of that, folks. Like, subscribe, all of that on Spotify and whatnot. Thank you, everyone who did the online comments and tuned in live. We appreciate you very much. And just want to say, good night, everyone.
Good night.